Canangra was one of the Sydney Harbour ferries built in 1912. So it's been around a long time, and it was on the Cremorne-Mosman run.
It had been a steamship originally, but then it was converted to a diesel. But over the years, because it was a timber ship, it gradually deteriorated with wear.
And they got a bit fearful that the thing would sink, simple as that.
In 2007, we started to think about setting up a men's shed. And there was Peter Devoy, who was a local person in Pyrmont, and Robin Davies. She came from the Uniting Church. The Uniting Church was developing men's shed, and I thought it would be a good idea in my retirement that I would have somewhere to go and do things with other men. And the first thing we needed was somewhere to meet, to have a shed, and John Simpson, who was the CEO of the Sydney Heritage Fleet, offered us the use of the upper deck of the Canangra.
I joined the men's shed in 2007 when it was first organised, and as we had no shed, we decided as a group to join the Heritage Fleet, and so we moved over there en masse and used to work 2 or 3 days a week on board the old ferry Canangra.
But the Sydney Heritage Fleet worked on a principle that they had little money, so that everything had to be done by hand. But the main thing they had a lot of was free labour, because a lot of men in their retirement were looking for something to do. Whether you were a boiler maker or a carpenter or a roof repair, you were looking for something to do. So they had about 200 volunteers, the Sydney Heritage Fleet, and they all had plenty of time.
And you had to actually join up as a member of the Heritage Fleet too, and pay to be a member of the Heritage Fleet to work on the boat in the men's shed. Yes, you had to pay to be a volunteer.
In 2009, when we started to work on the Canangra, little did we know, but the hull was just about rotted right through, although it was still floating at that time.
Also, it had been sitting in the weather for a number of years, and so a lot of the Australian cedar window frames were damaged and had to be replaced. And as the vessel was actually built in a banana shape, every window, and there are 254 of them, every window had to have new glass cut for it and curved at the top, so that became quite a task.
My role in the restoration of the Canangra was to repair all the windows on both sides, up the top deck and low deck, to replace rotted parts and cut them out and reshape new ones, etc. And another group of same group was to glaze the windows with thick 4 or 5 millimetres thick glass, because on a ferry it would get rougher than in a home.
Glass previous was just old glass, and as you look through it you could see it was distorted. We were redoing the windows, and the weights were actually taken down to one of the fellows in the Heritage Fleet, and he would actually cut them and weld them to make them heavier.
Every window is different. It's interesting, but every window had a shape, with a bit of a slope here, and as it kind of went down to the middle of the boat and then went up the other side. So we were quite fascinated. You couldn't kind of machine do very much at all.
There would have been about 12 to 15 of us working there. As I was going down there more frequently than anybody else, I became the coordinator down there.
A typical day at the shed would be that men would start coming from 8 o'clock in the morning. Some men liked to be early and some men would be later, so it didn't matter what time you came. We generally stopped about morning tea time because we wanted to make sure that the men had time to talk to each other.
We used to have morning tea, and Ross Hindmarsh used to always bring, I can always remember this, he always used to bring a bag of nuts, and we'd sit around the table. There was only about maybe 8 of us, and we'd just have a bit of a chat, go through how we were going, and just have a cup of tea and some nibblies, really. Yeah.
And then after about 3 or 4 years in the Canangra, we were given the shed here at Jubilee Oval, and so we moved over here. Initially, we actually carried on making window frames for them for a little while, but that just gradually faded. And we concentrated on setting this place up.
We ended up over here at the Arches. They became available through, I think it was Ross Hindmarsh did all the work, and they became available through the City Council. Well, I got a lot out of it really, because I just retired, and I don't think my wife wanted me sitting around at home all day. Going to the men's shed got me doing things, got me out of my comfort zone, got me out of the house, got me doing things that I never normally would have done.
The PUG shed is got a vast difference, but it's still the same principles. Caution, etc., is one of the things to start off with. Otherwise, I've still got all my fingers and toes and all that stuff. We were all volunteers. As far as I know, nobody got paid. Certainly no one around me got paid. But we did it for the love of it.